The ragged man said he'd take 5 Mercedes trucks. They laughed. But it was their biggest mistake. The winter wind howled across the dealership lot, carrying with it a faint smell of gasoline and arrogance. Inside the glass showroom of Harrison Motors, a group of sharply dressed salesmen laughed among themselves, the kind of laughter that came easy when business was good and life was comfortable. Then the door creaked open. A man stepped in, his coat torn at the sleeves, mud on his boots, and a face that told the story of too many cold nights. His hair was messy, his beard uneven. He looked like he hadn't had a warm meal in days. The laughter died down, but only for a second. Then came the smirks. "Can I help you, sir?" one of the salesmen asked, his tone half polite, half mocking. The man looked around slowly, his eyes landing on a row of Mercedes-Benz trucks gleaming under the bright showroom lights. "Yes," he said quietly. "I'll take 5 of those." The room froze. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the laughter returned, louder, crueler this time. 5 trucks? You mean toy trucks?" Another salesman chuckled. "Sir, each of those costs more than your wardrobe." The ragged man didn't react. He just nodded, his expression unreadable. "I'll take 5, he repeated. "Full price. But I'll need them delivered by tomorrow." The laughter echoed again, bouncing off the glass walls. One of them muttered, "Another lunatic off the street." Another said, "Come on, buddy. This isn't a charity." The man simply turned and walked out. The next morning, Harrison Motors woke up to headlines they couldn't believe. A video had gone viral overnight. Ragged man buys 5 trucks for disaster relief. The man they had laughed at was Daniel Reed, founder of Rebuild Hope, a quiet, self-funded organization that helped rebuild towns after hurricanes and floods. He had come in disguise, wanting to test how people treated those who seemed to have nothing. The 5 trucks were being loaded with food, blankets, and medical supplies for a storm-ravaged community in Louisiana. The video showed Daniel shaking hands with a small, independent dealership across town, one that had treated him with respect when he walked in wearing the same ragged coat. By noon, Harrison Motors' phones were flooded. Reporters, critics, and furious customers demanded answers. Their online ratings plummeted. The salesman who had laughed the loudest now sat in silence, watching footage of Daniel unloading supplies with a group of volunteers, smiling, humble, and dressed the same way he had been when they mocked him. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at Harrison Motors. It was short. "Sometimes, the richest thing a person can give is kindness. Daniel Reed." Inside the envelope was a check, not to the dealership, but a donation receipt showing Daniel had donated 5 brand new trucks to a rural rescue team, in their name, the same name that had laughed at him. Months passed. The story became a global symbol of humility and compassion. Teachers discussed it in classrooms, churches used it in sermons, and people who had never even met Daniel Reed started wearing shirts that read, "Never judge the man in rags. He might be the one building your tomorrow." The news spread faster than wildfire. Within days, Daniel Reed's story was everywhere, from talk shows in New York to breakfast TV in London. People called him the Ragged Angel, but Daniel never showed up on camera again. He refused interviews, turned down sponsorships, and kept working quietly. He always said, "If a camera needs to see kindness, then it's not kindness, it's a performance." Meanwhile, Harrison Motors was in chaos. The once proud dealership now sat empty most days. The laughter that used to fill the air had been replaced with whispers and regret. Tom, the salesman who'd first mocked Daniel, hadn't been sleeping well. Every night he replayed that moment, the way Daniel had looked at him before leaving. Not angry, not hurt, just disappointed. He tried to shrug it off, but guilt doesn't leave when the world is watching. One morning, Tom drove 3 hours south to a flood zone where Rebuild Hope was working. He didn't tell anyone. He just wanted to see it with his own eyes. The roads were muddy, lined with broken homes and fallen trees. Volunteers were hauling debris, setting up tents, handing out meals, and there, in a plain gray hoodie and muddy jeans, was Daniel. Not as a hero, not as a boss, just another man lifting sandbags, Tom walked up, nervous. "Mr. Reed?" he said quietly. Daniel turned, smiling faintly. "You must be from the dealership." Tom swallowed hard. "I came to help, if you'll let me." Daniel studied him for a moment, then handed him a shovel. "No one here needs permission to be kind," he said. And just like that, they worked side by side, all day, no cameras, no audience, just people helping people. When the sun began to set, Tom sat by the trucks, the same 5 Mercedes he had once laughed about, now covered in dirt. Filled with hope, he said softly, "You didn't have to forgive us." Daniel looked at the horizon and replied, "Forgiveness isn't for those who deserve it. It's for those who need it most." Weeks later, Harrison Motors reopened, not as a luxury dealership, but as a community donation center, providing vehicles and support to disaster relief efforts. Daniel never asked them to. They just knew it was the only way to make things right. And in a twist of fate, the dealership began to thrive again, not in profit, but in purpose. People came not to buy cars, but to believe again in decency, humility, and second chances. Years later, when Daniel passed away quietly in his sleep, people across the world lit candles in his honor. Tom spoke at his memorial. He didn't come to buy trucks that day. He came to remind us what humanity still looks like. And on the wall of the rebuilt dealership, now called Reed Motors of Hope, hangs a single quote carved in steel. "The man in rags may not need your help. He may be here to test your heart.